Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's third session of the MBA Spotlight series. My name is Sadek. I'll be your moderator for today's session. With me is Cindy from Haas. Very warm welcome to you.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Before we get started, just want to mention that we would also have later on a Haas Q&A session on Zoom, so make sure you sign up for that. It would be a great opportunity for those who want to get a more, let's say, personal touch to Haas. I also want to mention that today's session is brought to you by Fortuna Admissions. Make sure you guys check it out. And as always, we will have a Q&A session. Feel free to give us your questions. If you like today's video, please press that thumb up button. If you don't like it, please give us feedback, and we'll make sure to adjust things for the future. So I hope everything will be, hope it will be fruitful for you. Now, Cindy, I'll leave the floor for you, and I guess we have 20 minutes sort of presentation, and then we will lead with a Q&A session.
Great, thank you so much. So what I'm going to do is share my screen so that you can see. All right. Can everyone see?
We don't see it yet, actually.
Okay. Well, let me share it. Share screen.
It's coming up. Maybe just press presentation modes for the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And then I'll add you to the stream.
All right, here we go. Thank you. So my name is Cindy Millette. I'm Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Berkeley Haas. I've been working at Berkeley Haas for over 15 years. And one of the reasons why I really love what I do is the amazing community at Haas. I get to work with a number of amazing students and alumni and faculty and staff. In particular, I work with our student and alumni interviewer teams, as well as our Haas Student Ambassador team. And it was mentioned that there'll be a Zoom chat later on, and I'm actually going to be with Elle, who is one of our Haas Student Ambassadors, so I hope that you'll join us for that. I'm really excited to share some of the aspects of the student experience with you, and I'm going to plan to talk for about 20 minutes and then incorporate some time for some questions. So very happy to answer questions that you have that you can put in the chat. I'll start off really with why Berkeley Haas. So there are tons of different reasons why you may be exploring an MBA. I'm wondering if maybe some of these look familiar. It could be to gain knowledge and skills, to explore a new career path, have a positive impact, or be a better leader. And at Haas, we're really the epicenter of what's next. It's located in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is the hub of innovation and entrepreneurship. You have access to endless opportunities here. I am a Bay Area native and undergrad Cal alum, so I may be a bit biased, but it is a wonderful place to live. It's less than an hour away from San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and it's an environment and community where you can really feel safe to take risks and to grow, which I think is really important in your MBA transformation. I also want to talk a little bit about our culture. At Haas, our community is really grounded by these 4 defining leadership principles: question the status quo, confidence without attitude, student always, and beyond yourself. And as you think about an MBA, it's really important to think about the community in which you're going to go through your program. I think that's important for any organization or company that you go to, that you really align with the values that are important there. So we've done a lot of work. We're speaking to our key stakeholders like our alumni, our students, our faculty. It's not something that we took out of thin air. It's something we really cultivated by looking at what type of leader we're trying to develop. So my favorite principle is confidence without attitude. I think it's really important to be confident in your abilities, but of course have that humility. And also just be able to listen to different perspectives. So that really has to do with kind of going beyond yourself, listening to others and giving back. So through the application process, this is something, as you consider schools, I think it's really important to think about the culture and the support that you'll get in your transformation. It is a very student-centered experience, and we're going to talk about this in the rest of the presentation, but really thinking about interdisciplinary program, being experiential learning, which we're going to get to. It is a very intimate program. We only have 300-ish students each year. And so it's one of the smallest MBA programs in the top programs. And we are very innovative. So that's another thing that I will highlight a little bit later. So one way that we do support this is really looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion and the approach that we have, which really is question the status quo and being a student always. So we look at our DEI strategy in two different ways. One is through support. So we have support structures in place to help you. So for example, if you are a first generation college grad, you're going to have a different needs of support. And that's really okay. And so we try to meet you where you are. We've made investments in our DEI team, for example, a chief diversity officer that reports to our senior leadership and our dean, and also a director of diversity admissions who focuses on DEI in our admissions process itself. We also have support various different student organizations. For example, we have a Women in Leadership Club, or we have our Center for Equity, Gender, and Leadership. So that's a home for several different initiatives that are taking place in our community. Second pillar that we're looking at is learning. And so we are committed to really teaching and creating a space in which DEI is just a fundamental part of how you do business. So something to be practiced and to learn. We want to be sure we're preparing our leaders who can lead diverse teams in a very inclusive way. And so academically, we have a equity fluent leadership emphasis, which is really something that's further investing in. We're also working with our professors and our faculty to really build these components and representation into our program, and representation of our faculty being diverse as well. We have a signature elective course called Dialogues on Race, and that helps our students become more curious and capable. And we also have a student-led research and consulting opportunities like the Race Inclusion Initiative and Gender Equity Initiative. So this is ultimately one of the three key priorities of our dean. And so we're really putting resources there. The next thing I want to talk about is return on investment, which I think is a hot topic in MBA programs. So one of the top selling points for Haas is that it has the lowest tuition and fee costs of the top MBA programs. And you can see some statistics there. 104% median salary increase 3 years post MBA. 93% of our students typically receive offers within 3 months of graduation. You can see our top industries right there. What I think really also stands out is the number. If you look at the graph in our employment reports, there's so many different things that people go into. It's not just one industry. And I think that's really exciting to see our alumni in many different areas. And just to think about, well, how do you do that in career management? There are over 70 people in the career management group alone who have skills and tuition to really help all of our students. So for example, we have career coaches, and they are going to meet individually with our students to think about how to frame your career goals and really refine your search strategy. So kind of thinking about your intrinsic values, what's important to you, and whether the career you're pursuing is really the career that's going to be a good fit for you. We also have relationship managers who are industry specific. So this means that they are making the connections with the companies, both established firms as well as up and coming firms. We also have peer advisors, and these are second-year MBA students who have already gone through the internship search. And so they help our first-year students in kind of figuring out what type of questions are going to be asked, share lessons learned, and lead mock interviews for our first years. We also have industry specialists, and they can give you insider insights and hands-on advice like, how to prepare a resume or how to get ready for an interview, how to get hired in the many different industries. I also want to talk, of course, about our amazing alumni community. You're joining an amazing global community, both in school and when you graduate. We have over 41,000 Berkeley Haas alumni and 46 global alumni chapters across the world, of course, and nearly 500,000 UC Berkeley alumni, which you have the access to as an MBA student. So talk a little bit, taking a step back, on what to expect in our MBA program. We have, as I mentioned, around 300 students in the program. It's one of the smallest. We're divided into 4 cohorts of 75 students each. You are placed on a very diverse and engineered study team where a 5-person study group, which you go through your first electives with together, which is very exciting because that helps you in being able to have a cohesive way to go through those programs. I also want to talk a little bit about what you see in our full-time class. This last year, we had 331 students. Of course, it was kind of a different year. We had a lower percentage of international students due to COVID and the restrictions in travel and visa. But we are seeing an uptick in that and getting back to normal between 30 to 40% international students. We did have 37 countries represented, and you can see kind of the way our class ended up this last cycle. And just a little bit about our curriculum. We have 40% core required courses that you take through the program. 60% are electives, independent study and new venture exploration, but really focused on being flexible and finding those courses that you want to participate in. So the key really here, the differentiator, is that flexibility. So you could take classes in really to focus in one specific area that you're hoping to get into. Maybe you're making a career switch, or you could be taking a number of different courses. So it's really kind of up to the individual. We also have a very strong focus in experiential learning. We call them our innovative courses. So this is a way to really get the impact. So you're really working on solving real world problems. We draw on our deep relationships with a number of different clients, leading firms and organizations that we have in the Bay Area and across the nation and around the world. So you have to take at least one of our 20 applied innovation courses. And we work on team projects, as I mentioned. For example, one that's very popular is the International Business Development, and it arranges consulting projects with a variety of for-profit and nonprofit clients, and students work in small teams. It happens in the spring semester. You're working with the client virtually, and then in typical year, you would go on site for 3 weeks in the summer before your summer internship to work with the client in various countries like Brazil, Korea, Ghana, and India. Of course, things were a little different this past year, but we are looking forward to moving back. That's one of our most popular programs. And when I talk to alumni and students, one course that they really think influenced their time at Haas, and they think about it very fondly. So another example is our entrepreneurship program. So the mission really is to integrate entrepreneurial thinking into the Haas student experience and to assist students in launching new ventures. And so in addition to a wide range of different courses that we have, many featuring the Lean Launchpad method, this program offers opportunities to get exposure, acquire skills, specifically looking at startups or starting startups. And so our courses really offer students to guide through these 3 different phases of the entrepreneurial journey, which is ideation, customer discovery, and acceleration. So we offer multidisciplinary hackathons, pitchathons, mentoring hours from industry experienced individuals, startup seed funding, and competitions like Launch Accelerator, internships and events with a number of different startups and entrepreneurial ventures. Another huge part of the student experience is our over 40 student organizations. So we have professional ones like fintech, consulting, marketing, and then we have some that are more interest-driven, like we have an amazing food club, which kind of aligns a little bit with industry as well. Wine, we are kind of close to a lot of the wineries in Napa, and soccer, for an example, and also some affinity groups as well. So this is an amazing way to really focus with your classmates and kind of learn a little bit about each other and help each other through your experience. UC Berkeley also is the #1 public university in the world, so you have the advantage to take classes in other top graduate programs at Cal, and this includes 5 units of classes outside of Haas. So we have also a number of concurrent degree program options, like our MBA Masters in Public Health, which is 2.5 years, which includes 2 internships. We have an MBA Masters in Engineer, which is 2 years. You would determine 1 out of 7 engineering departments that you'd apply to. And then we have our Law JD MBA program, which is 4 years. So usually students would start in the MBA in their second year from the JD program. We also have graduate certificates. So one new one is the Sustainable Business. And this really was a way to lead transition to a climate resilient and low carbon and equitable future. This is another one of the Dean's very high priorities. So we offer this new Sustainable Business Certificate. We also offer one in business analytics, which really, of course, we've seen that trend to really look at how leaders can translate data to insights. We also have our real estate certificate, which has been around for a long time, provides interdisciplinary training in real estate, including real estate investment law, real estate debt in the build environment. So a number of different courses within a lot of our different programs here at Haas. So now I'm going to talk, just again, take another step back and look at the admissions overview, which I imagine there might be some questions that come out of this. We do offer Q&A sessions weekly that you can learn more about, where we go into a lot of depth. So I'm going to cover this fairly briefly. So how do we evaluate applicants? First of all, we of course are going to be look at academics. There really are the 3 different areas we look at, which is academics, professional, and personal. So for academics, we're looking at a combination of your GMAT or GRE. We don't have a preference for which one you take. I suggest taking the test that you're going to perform the best in. We take the highest score, and combination of that test score as well as the undergraduate transcript and GPA. And so we're going to be looking at those to ensure that all students coming into the program are prepared academically to do well in the program. So we look, of course, in context. Let's say maybe you didn't perform as well as undergrad for some specific reason, and you've mentioned that, but you've performed well on the GMAT or the GRE, or vice versa. Those are things that we're going to look at. It's a very holistic process. So this being one of the factors that we're going to be looking at in the application process. Professional. Obviously, we want people who have had some experience and are able to come into the program in order to share their experience with fellow classmates. And the criteria, the things we're going to be looking at is your resume and your letters of recommendation. It really has to do with the quality of your experience, not the quantity. So I know we have some people who have 2 years of full-time work experience. The average is about 5. We have some people who have 8 years of professional experience. It really is looking at those, the resume and the letter of recommendation, looking at both leadership formal and informal. So one tip that I'd give in regards to professional is really take some time working on your resume. I know from being on panels with other admissions officers, that's one of those documents that we really open up and look as a snapshot of your experience. So not only looking at your professional experience, but I would also try to include some additional details about maybe your leadership outside of that, community involvement, extracurricular involvement. I think it's also important to think about that in regards to who might see your resume. We do interviews, which I'll talk about in a minute, and the interviewers, our students and alumni, are only going to have access to your resume. So being able to provide kind of that snapshot, I think, is very important. The third piece we're going to be looking at is personal. So that has to do with really wanting to know a little bit more about you outside of your academics and your professional. So really some personal aspects, really wanting to know your authentic self. So we have a number of essay questions. One in particular, our essays are going to remain the same for this year compared to last year. So they are on our website currently. One is what makes you feel alive when you're doing it and why. And we really ask that in order to really, again, think about authenticity, thinking about what's important to you. We are going to get a lot of information through your academics and your professional. So how are we going to kind of look at defining leadership principles, alignment, your passions, your drives, what you would contribute to the community? And we're going to find that through these other areas of the application. I think that we also do offer application prep seminars to help you kind of prepare your application. So I also would encourage you to stay tuned for that. We did that last year. It was really great in order to really show all the aspects of the application, provide tips, and then also do kind of a mock Adcom to show how we really evaluate candidates as a holistic process. These are our application deadlines. So September 23rd for round 1, January 6th for round 2, and April 7th for round 3. And I do want to encourage you to reach out to our students. They are on their summer internship, summer break currently, so there may be a little bit of a delay on getting back to you, but they are monitoring the emails that come in. You can email them at hsa@haas.berkeley.edu. Also want to mention that they are hosting some Ask Me Anything events during the summer, as well as some information sessions. So if you do want to hear a little bit more, those are great events to join, and you can see those on our website. We also have international student representatives that you can contact, as well as consortium liaisons. We are a member of the consortium, so lots of different ways to contact us and connect and learn more. So that's going to be the end for me. That's our email address if you do have questions, and I'm going to stop sharing so we can start with the Q&A portion.
Thank you, Cindy. Really appreciate it. And yeah, it was very comprehensive. I really liked it.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and pull up some questions that we've received on the forum.
Okay.
First one is, all right, what's the difference between applying in first round versus round 2, for example?
Yeah, I think that it's very important to apply when you feel like your application is the strongest. The worst thing you can do is try to rush it and say, I got to apply in round 1, because truthfully, there are more openings because we haven't admitted anyone yet. But if you put forth a rushed application, it's not going to do a service to you at all. So I would say that round 1 and round 2 is our largest round. So they're pretty comparable if you have a strong application. And so I always say that if you need to take the exam again in order to get a stronger score, if you need to work on your essays a little bit longer, then you should do that and apply in round 2. I would say that financial aid is a bit stronger if you apply earlier. That's something to think about. But rounds 1 and round 2, I would say you want to just be sure that you have your strongest application.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. For people who are looking for employment outside of the U.S., from your experience dealing with students, is this easy? Is this harder than looking for employment in the U.S.? Can you share something about it?
Yeah, so I think that each individual career journey is a little bit different. I would say that the majority of our students do, a lot of them stay in the Bay Area because there's a lot of opportunity here. But we do have a lot of international students who actually will go back to their country once they graduate from the program. And I think that's pretty relatively easy to do. We do have I think that anytime someone has a different strategy of career, it takes a little bit more work. But our career management group definitely works with people. But certainly our alumni network is very global. So that's another way that people really find jobs and opportunities.
Yeah, thank you for that. Another question from the forum, and then I'll just switch to the YouTube questions. For someone who would like to focus on finance and especially on social impact investing, is there resources at Haas to support this person?
Yes, for sure. I would say that we have impact investing courses. We also have a socially responsible investment fund. So I think that those are ways that lots of different courses. I did note in one of my links, the areas of emphasis. That's a wonderful site that actually has a list in all of our different areas. So you'll see one under finance that actually goes through all of the different courses you can take within that program.
Great. So our audience has to make sure to rewatch the video and. Yeah. So now going to the YouTube channel, I've noted some interesting questions in here. Let me just find it. Yeah, first one is about scholarships. So does Haas offer any need-based scholarships, or is it just merit-based?
We do have some need-based scholarships. It's an application process where you provide your financial details that goes through our financial aid department. We also do offer merit scholarships. Anyone who applies to the program is automatically considered for merit scholarships through the application process. So we're looking for the strongest candidates to provide funding. We also do have some other scholarships which are alumni funded. And there are some essay questions, short essay questions to provide for that. But at the time of admission, everyone will know whether, what funding they received in regards to merit scholarships and need.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who's a reapplicant, is there any advice about the things that this person has to do or not do? Should he or she submit some of the same essays from the past if they think they're good? Do you have any advice regarding this?
Yeah, I would say for reapplicants, what we're really looking for is some sort of substantial change from their first application. So why are you a stronger candidate? So I'm looking for reapplicants. I will say that we really do like reapplicants, and many people are admitted the second time, even third time around. But I will say, we love the fact that people are passionate about Haas and they're applying again, but we are looking for what has changed. And so that's my piece of advice, is providing those details, usually in a very bullet point kind of format of, okay, this is what's changed since I applied last time, which makes me feel like I'm a stronger candidate. Number one, I retook the GMAT and it's stronger. Number two, I got promoted at work. So it's really kind of just giving us those tidbits. And so we really do appreciate effort and appreciate kind of resilience. That's something that's very important to us in our review process. So that's the way I would approach it as a reapplicant.
All right. Thank you for that answer. Mm-hmm. I have a more now specific question regarding the application, specifically regarding the English requirements. So is there a way to waive the test, the English testing? Is there something can one do the Duolingo test? Any word on this?
Yeah, so we have a requirement to take the TOEFL or the IELTS if you have gone to school in a country where English is not the first language. And so we have a list of all of those. There are some specific, obviously, different situations, but we don't have a waiver for that except if you've taken 1 year of full-time academic coursework at a school where English is the first language. So that's really the waiver that we primarily have. We don't take the Duolingo test. Those are the two that we take, the TOEFL and the IELTS.
All right. I hope it's clear for our audience now. Now, for someone who's looking more into the entrepreneurship track, Haas is in the heart of Silicon Valley. This person would like to know more about the way Haas is linked to different VCs, for instance. So that person, I guess, would like to start his own startup. Is there programs that emphasize this or make this link more obvious?
Yes, entrepreneurship is another one of those pillars that our dean is very excited about. We are in the works of creating an entrepreneurship hub. We have Skydeck, which is an accelerator. So across UC Berkeley, that is where students are able to, you basically have to be accepted into Skydeck as an accelerator. You get accesses to faculty and resources there. It's actually a really cool website if you go look at it, and it has a number of the different startups that have actually been accepted into the incubator. And as for links to VCs, I mentioned that we have some business plan competitions. We have the launch, and then we have a global social venture business plan competition as well. And so we have VCs who come to campus to judge these plans, as well as some seed funding. So also VC mentoring hours, that would be another thing that I would mention, is that you do have access. I think part of it is location. Part of it is, I think, a lot of the entrepreneurship innovative ideas that come through the program. And so there are a lot of resources. Another great resource, of course, to learn more is to talk to our students about it, and also our entrepreneurship clubs.
All right. Now, if you are willing to switch to consulting, which is a completely different route,
Yeah.
specific resources that has put in place. For example, here Anjan mentions the experiential experiences. Yeah, two difficult words to pronounce.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say there are a number of individuals who want to go into consulting who come into our program. I mentioned the clubs that we have. So we have a consulting club, and they really work very closely with our career management group on preparing students to interview for consulting internships and then eventually full-time consulting gigs. And I think that our relationship managers, those are the career management staff that work directly with the consulting companies. Consulting is the hiring process is very different than entrepreneurship, of course, because it's a little, so we do a lot of startups. A lot of people want to work for that kind of area too, but consulting is very traditional. So you're going to prepare, you're going to get coaching on case study method and interviewing. I mentioned, again, we have second-year career coaches who have done consulting internships who are able to help our students through that. So it's certainly something that we have many resources to help students through consulting, as we know a lot of students are interested in doing that through the MBA program.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it would be any problem. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the Haas community is composed of so many people coming from so many different industries. So, and the fact that it's only around 300 people, it makes the community even grow together. So, yeah.
Yep.
I have a question from Tim here asking about the importance of the age factor. So he's 34. He's wondering if it's too late for him.
No, I will say that we do not look at age because it's discriminatory to do that, but we do look obviously at professional experience. And again, looking at quality versus quantity. So we have a range, and whenever you look at MBA programs and kind of their profile, I always recommend looking at the 80% range, which most schools will present, because there always are people who are outliers, looking at the stats, looking at everything, and we have quite a range of people. So certainly I think that the MBA, there may be a different time for everyone to pursue the MBA. I think the benefits are definitely there, regardless of if you're 2 years out or 8 years out. I think that it definitely, a lot of students can benefit, of course, also from students who come to the program with more work experience. So I would not count yourself out anything to do with age or number of years of work experience, because we definitely do have a range of people who come from many backgrounds and many different professional backgrounds.
Yes. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it really depends on this person's CV, let's say, or experience. I mean, you could only have 4 years of experience and do amazing things. You can have 8 years of experience and do nothing. That's versa. So.
Yep.
There's another question that is going the same direction here regarding the industries. So if a candidate hasn't tried out multiple job industries, but rather stayed at the same firm, is this considered more of a less adventurous? And is this negatively impacting the application?
No, I would say not. We have a number of students. I think that in the application process, there is no perfect applicant. So we're going to have students who have switched jobs and gone to different startups maybe. And it's like, oh, that's a great candidate. He's going into entrepreneurship. Everything kind of makes sense. Or maybe there's someone who has been, she's been at a consulting firm for a long time and kind of shown that progression, and wants to switch and go into food or something. And so being able to demonstrate that progression, I think, is important. Even if you've been at one firm, that's awesome, because then you're going to get letters of recommendation from people who know you very well and shown that growth that you've had. So we don't have any preconceived notions of someone who's been at one firm or maybe someone who's jumped around a little bit, as long as those dots are connected in the story that you tell in your application. And so that's where I would, if it makes sense that there's a reason why you've been at that firm for a while and now you want your MBA, if the reason fits, then it's going to all work well in your application.
Makes sense. Now talking about letter of recommendations, I have a question here. So if the candidate is not able to get one from his current employer or supervisor, will this have a negative impact on the application?
No. The only thing I would say is definitely indicate to us why. Sometimes someone may just started with a new company. And so it makes no sense to ask a current supervisor who you've been working with for 2 months when you have your previous supervisor. And sometimes maybe your current supervisor hasn't worked with you as closely as someone else. And that's my number one criteria for choosing someone for a recommender, is that they know you very well and have worked closely with you. And so just be able to mention it in the application. It's not going to be a problem at all. Many people are applying in confidence, and so they don't provide a current supervisor recommendation, and that is perfectly fine. Just mention it.
Yeah, thank you for that. We talked about a couple different industries and functions, so entrepreneurship, consulting. Now I've seen a question about healthcare. Are there specific resources that you think make Haas a school that is attractive for people who are willing to go into healthcare?
Yes, definitely. That's actually one of the industries that has become really strong in our profile for this incoming class. I mentioned that we have an MBA Master's in Public Health. And so that is a 2.5-year program where you're taking classes in our amazing public health school, including Healthcare for the 21st Century, which is an elective that is really great. We've seen a trend of people interested more specifically in health equity, especially during this COVID situation we've been in. And so I think that has one reason why the trend has been really strong. But we also have a community of individuals that have come from healthcare backgrounds, and this includes people coming from healthcare insurance. We have in our MBA and PH program RNs and MDs. So I think that it's a really great program. And again, I mentioned before the areas of emphasis, but we have all the courses listed there that you can see that are offered within healthcare. But I think in particular that we have the graduate program in our public health, which you can take classes within that I think adds a lot of value.
All right, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
There is one question that is being repeated quite a few times now, a bit like taking you a step back now, again, to the application process, specifically the GMAT. So if one person has, let's say, a very great one score or verbal score, but then one part, let's say the integrated reasoning is very weak, is this damaging? Should this person retake the GMAT? Can this person submit maybe 2 GMAT scores? Any word of advice?
Yeah, so I think that, there's always the question about the balance. So certainly the MBA program is quantitative intent. So we want to make sure that individuals have that quantitative experience, for example, in their undergraduate record. So again, it's a combination of looking at academics and how strong people are in those quantitative courses, and then the GMAT. So if someone doesn't do as well on the quantitative, but then in the academics, they were strong and they've taken a number of quantitative courses, then that's going to balance it out for us and just say, that person has the ability. The integrative reasoning is one that I would say that it's not as closely looked at as the other two, like the main scores. If it is very, very low, that could be a flag. But in general, if someone took it again and did well, then that would be something that we certainly would look at. Again, it's the holistic process. So you can submit a couple of different scores. It could be something that you might want to think about retaking if it's a very low score. It also depends on each individual, how many times they've taken it, because there's a point where it's not going to matter, and so you want to spend time where it's going to be helpful in your application, not spend time on things that aren't going to be helpful. So again, it's always very holistic, looking at a lot of different factors.
Absolutely. And talking about this holistic perspective, I think I have one last question here, unless we still have more time, which is, what are the key factors that Haas is looking for in an applicant? And basically, what are those KPIs that an applicant has to pay attention for?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think that certainly we want individuals who kind of align a lot with our defining leadership principles, which I mentioned. So culture is very important to us. And it doesn't mean that someone says, well, I can tick off all of them. It means that we're seeing some of those key characteristics in the applicant. So kind of a culture ad. And so when I'm looking at an applicant, I want to see how is this person going to show up and contribute to the community. And so that could be, academics aside, it can be their professional experience. They have something unique that they've done that I see through their letters of recommendation. And I say, oh, that's something that really would add value to the classroom. And I can see that person really thriving. Or that person has an amazing story of resilience and overcoming things. And you see that authentically in their application and their essays, and something that they're going to be able to bring to their classmates and be able to kind of lift them up and show them how you can overcome obstacles. Or it's someone who, has, really strong background in something and wants to make a change. And they have a great story for how they're going to do that. Or the last thing I would say is giving back. I mean, I told, as one of our defining leadership principles is beyond yourself. And we are a public university. And so when I see stories of people who have been very active in their community, that's an example of when they come to Haas, they're going to do that too. Yep. And they're going to give back. And so that's something that I also see as something that I would be excited. And again, I just want to go back to what I said before, which is there's no perfect applicant. Each person is an individual and different. And that's what we're looking for, is people are able to show that story and would be a good culture ad for our program.
Thank you, Cindy, for that very good answer. I really liked it. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's our past actions inform about our future decisions. So I think this is the kind of
that's right.
thing you take into account to be able to judge an applicant. So as an applicant, you should be having that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Cindy, for the presentation and for the Q&A. Really appreciate it. We will have later also a breakout session with Haas where, I think you and a colleague of yours will be there. It's a perfect opportunity to ask those more detailed questions.
Yep, it'll actually be one of our Haas student ambassadors, Elle. So that'll be really exciting because it'll give kind of a student perspective.
That's great. That's even better.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, thank you everybody for being with us today. It was a pleasure. If you liked today's video, please don't hesitate to like it, press that thumb up button. If you don't like it, thumb down and give us some feedback. We would love to make it better for the next time. Stay safe, have a good day, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.